Welcome to Woodstock City Council. It is Thursday, April the 16th, 2020, and this is an electronic meeting, and we are holding it in accordance with Section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and Section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedural Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel and on Rogers Television. A recording of the meeting will also be posted on the city website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website, or by clicking on the link provided in the description section of this live stream on YouTube. Councillors will be raising their hands in view of their webcam when moving a motion, requesting to speak, and when a vote is being taken. If a member of council is disconnected or having technical difficulties, we will take a recess in order to attempt to rectify the issue. If technical difficulties exist that prevent the meeting from continuing, the meeting will be adjourned and reconvened at a later date. And I'd like to say welcome to all of council and the staff that is here. And we'll begin with just a brief message to all of the citizens of the Friendly City. These are unprecedented times that we're in right now. And as mayor of the city and interacting with so many of the great people that we have here in the community for various agencies, as well as everything that makes this city run, I want to send out a big thank you to the individuals that are keeping our city running, the individuals that are serving food, providing groceries, pharmacy, all of the emergency services, all of the volunteers that are stepping up and doing their part, all of the citizens that are taking this seriously and protecting their loved ones, checking in on those that are vulnerable, and sacrificing those visits with people in an attempt to make sure that we all can get through this and flatten the curve. And a big thank you, of course, to all of the city staff who continue to provide exemplary service, and we don't have to worry about the quality of the water or whether our garbage will be picked up, or if we need to make that call to the fire department or police department. We know that we're in good hands and we truly are the Friendly City. And I want to remind everyone that we will get through this together. So I will start with any disclosure of conflict of interest. Seeing none, any disclosure of new business. Matters arising from the minutes. Then we'll begin with the minutes. We have the minutes from March 5th, regular meeting, as well as March 25th, a special meeting, and the second March 25th meeting. And if I can have a mover.
Moved by myself and moved by myself and
hands, thank you.
Sorry, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on March 5th, 2020, and the minutes of special electronic meeting number 1 and special electronic meeting number 2 held on March 25th, 2020 be adopted.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries, unanimous. Next item on the agenda is consideration of correspondence. Councillor Accioni.
Yes, moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council supports the letter dated March 23rd, 2020 from the town of Midland urging the Prime Minister of Canada to direct the payment of federal funds to municipalities to waive property taxes for the year 2020 to alleviate the suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the town of Midland and Oxford MP Dave McKenzie.
Thank you. A seconder? Seeing none, the motion fails. Thank you, and we'll move along. Next item on the agenda is our 2019 Development Charges Reserve Fund. And this one here is a annual report that we submit to the province, which includes all of our fund positions for all of those amenities that get expanded as our community grows. So the development charges are collected on that new residential growth and commercial growth. and goes towards the future expansion of our parks and our police department and our library. And on this report, we see all of the monies that were collected in 2019 and projects that some of those monies were used for and what our closing balance was. So I'd look for a mover on this, Councillor Talbot, seconded by Councillor Tate. And Councillor Talbot.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the 2019 Development Charges Reserve Fund report as information.
Thank you. And we have a mover and a seconder. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries, unanimous. And our next item on the agenda is this is our dedicated gas tax funding for public transportation. And for the viewers at home, you've heard about the gas tax funding that we take in under two different accounts. And this one here is for the fiscal year from April 1st of 2019 to March 31st of 2020. And it's based partly on our ridership of transit and also on our population. So for those of you who put gasoline into your car, you know that there are those hidden taxes, and this is our opportunity to receive some of that money back to our community to help with our public transit service. And I'd look for a mover on that report, Councillor Accioni, and a seconder, Councillor Lauder. Go ahead, Councillor Accioni.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council refer the report 2019-2020 dedicated gas tax funding for public transportation to the bylaw section of the meeting.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carries, unanimous. And the next report on the agenda is the 2019 expenses and remuneration. And this report is an annual report that contains all of the expenses and remuneration for council positions and the mayor and those of our various committees and boards. And again, it's a regular report that we submit each year, and it's available on our website on this agenda here. And I would look for a mover, Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Schadenberg, and Councillor Fraser. Your mic's not on, Councillor Fraser. That's okay. For those at home, bear with us. We'll just need to change that button.
I'm connected again. Moved by myself, the Woodstock City Council received the 2019 expenses and remuneration report as information.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carries, unanimous. And our next one on the agenda is the 2019 tender awards. And in this one, it shows the results of some of those tenders regarding the pickup trucks and some of the equipment, as well as a few of the road reconstruction that included some of the water and wastewater components for the county. And as you'll see in most of those sections, we came a little under budget. In a few areas, it might have been a little bit over budget, but within the overall capital position that we had, we were in good shape. So I'd look for a mover and a seconder on that. So moved by Councillor Lauder and seconded by Councillor Talbot. Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the 2019 tender awards report as information.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to probably Mr. Creary. Just on the two road projects, Catherine Street and Perry Street, I just want to make sure that my figures are correct. We were over budget, maybe combined about 50,000. Would that be correct?
Your Worship, through to Councillor Talbot, the net city cost for Catherine Street appears to be about $25,000 over budget. Perry Street appears to be $29,000 over city budget. In both cases, they were balanced off by under bids in other capital road projects.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure on that. That's what I had come up with, but I wanted to double check, which really, when you're looking at the scope of the projects, that's not a terrible amount of overage. So, and as you said, we made up for it in other areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Schadenberg. Oh, that wasn't for discussion?
No,
You're
it
ready to
was.
vote.
I was
Go
not.
ahead.
I have to unmute my computer here first. I guess maybe just more of a comment, but it's going to be a question as well. Following the Piddock Dam access question for quite a while myself has been, of course, I'm on the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board as well. But the budget was $349,000, and I see that the Royal Fence Limited of Dorchester got the successful bid for significantly less. What kind of a answer would David Creer, the CIO, be able to give us still some timetable for this springtime as to when the sort of the access across the dam will be occurring? I'm sure a lot of the people in the city of Woodstock will be curious about that. And I know Brian Connors isn't joining us tonight.
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, the original plan was to have a ribbon cutting ceremony on May 1st for the opening of the pedestrian access across the dam. This work allowed for sufficient work to complete the safety improvements to open that. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances that we're in, all such public events have been canceled until such time as the restrictions have been relaxed. There is additional work in the capital budget this year to continue with the improvements across the top of the dam. And that work specifically this year is the lighting that we have planned.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And next up is expenses not included in the 2020 preliminary revenue fund budget. And this is one where when we look at the new rules that we go with for our asset management and the accounting procedures for the amortization of our capital depreciation, as well as our post-retirement benefits. And we normally do not include those amounts within the budget for our revenue purposes for taxation, but we do need to record them and report them both here and when we do our financial statements. And as you'll see as you look through and compare from previous years, we're heading in the right direction. So we're continuing to do more of that necessary capital work to make sure that we're catching up on some of the backlog. And of course, when it comes to the post-retirement, we put money in reserve each year to make sure that we have that covered as well. So looking for a mover and a seconder. So moved by Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Accioni. Councillor Tate.
Move that Woodstock City Council adopts the report regarding the exclusion of post-retirement and amortization expenses from the 2020 Reserve Fund budget.
Thank you. And discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carries unanimous. And next up, we have the 2020 budget approval. And within this, for the viewers at home who have followed along from months ago, when before the Christmas holidays, we were working on the capital reports. We have been working on trying to expand some of the services, do more of that capital work. And then as we got into those revenue fund meetings, we were looking at some of the staffing increases for some of the service programming. And of course, right now with what's going on with the COVID, we're looking at putting many of those additions on hold for now and make sure that we look for all of the opportunities from our senior level of government as we go through the rest of this year. So we're going to continue to make sure we maintain all of the services that are needed, but some of those other projects or enhanced services will have to wait a little bit. And we have Councillor Fraser. Now the screen just went black for him. I'm not sure if he touched the wrong button, but he was looking to make that motion. Okay, so do we have someone else to make the motion? Councillor Talbot. And a seconder would be, well, we can pick anyone here. I'll go Councillor Schadenberg. Go ahead, Councillor Talbot.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council refer to the motions attached to the report. 1, that account number 1,836100171, library WSIB be reduced from 43,000 to 7,000. 2, that account number 0307-6600100908, parking receipts, Light Street lot be reduced from 8,000 to 6,000. 3, that account number 03037910100351, street light electricity be increased from 480,000 to 520,000. 4, that account number 07097710100393, transit purchase services be increased from 1,000 to 30,000. 5, that council establish an expense account for the COVID-19 with a budget of 750,000 to be funded with the 2019 surplus. And 6, that the balance of the 2019 surplus be allocated to the reserve for capital projects.
Thank you. And discussion? Seeing none, and we have Councillor Fraser back. We've made the motion as presented regarding the 2020 budget approval. Any discussion at this point?
No.
Seeing none. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And we'll have a release that we will post on the city website as well as through the media channels and our social media channels as well. And the good news, when we take a look at what has been approved for this budget, as we said, it'll continue to make sure that all of the services that are vital in our community is, let's see. Let me just pause for a second here. Sorry, so we're doing this in 2 parts. That's right. So we voted on that one. So we have the next motion for the final approval, and then I'll do the recap. Let's go with Councillor Lauder and a seconder, Councillor Tate. Go ahead, Councillor Lauder.
Move that Woodstock City Council approves the 2020 Revenue Fund budget as amended, and that the Director of Administrative Services is directed to prepare the necessary bylaws for Council's consideration.
Thank you very much. Any discussion? Councillor Schadenberg? Was that for discussion?
Yeah, no, it is through the mayor to, I guess, Patrice Hilderly, our treasurer. Just curious as to make some sort of a comment for those who are viewing about, I mean, obviously we have a lack of or reduced expenses in some areas, but one significant area I believe that we have reduced revenue would be the fact that the OLG slots are currently closed. And I know a lot of that money ends up going to community grants as well. So there'll be some people that sort of a negative effect there that have applied for grants in the past, but give us a basic general idea as to the slots being closed or other maybe significant revenue areas that might be suffering in the city of Woodstock's overall budget for intake of dollars.
Thank you. Certainly the slots will have an impact, but not until next year, because our grant program works that we spend the money we received in the previous year in the next year, so that we won't see that impact till next year. But we figure that we'll see some impacts with reduced interest revenue. Certainly penalty that we're not collecting is about $50,000 a month. We have some other programs that we're not running, and they're partially offset with a staff fact that we're not having to run the programs and pay the staff for those.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And we are unanimous. So with that, I will just give round numbers at this point in time, and you can check the releases for the exact details as verified through our Director of Administrative Services, who just spoke to the revenue. And where we're at right now is we would be looking at a 0.31% reduction on the tax rate. Now, when you take a look at the average assessed home and where it's at in the assessment cycle, with the increase in the budget that takes place, it ends up being a 0.7% increase. So close to about $17 a year is the increase. The actual tax rate goes down, but again, depending on the value of your home versus the value of your neighbor's home and where you're at in that assessment, we're looking at, for the average homeowner, still an increase that is much below inflation. So very good news and a lot of hard work by staff. And of course, council, I think, will be prepared to hear about some of those enhancements to service and some of those additional capital items that we left off this year. We'll start to hear about those again this fall when we start the 2021 budget, which isn't that far away. Next up on the agenda, we have the deferred payment interest rate policy. And this one is to do with some changes that have happened recently with the province and regarding our development charges and our ability to collect those over the future period and maintain the rates that we have right now until all of the policies and procedures are in place. So a very technical report, but looking for a mover and a seconder. It's Councillor Tate and Councillor Fraser. Go ahead, Councillor Tate.
Move that Woodstock City Council approve Council Policy AS 0112 Deferred Charges Interest Rate Policy, and further that City Council direct staff to work with the city solicitor to develop a standard agreement for deferred payments, and further that Director of Administration Services and the city engineer be delegated the authority to authorize and sign said deferred payment agreements and the necessary bylaw be read, and further that Council Policy GA 017 Delegation of Powers and Duties be updated accordingly.
Thank you. And discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And our next one is the Municipal Code Chapter 513 Amendment. And here it's looking at snow removal. And we did have a little bit of snow in the last few days. Thankfully, none of it stuck around like it did a couple of years ago. So on this one, looking for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Schadenberg and Councillor Lauder. Go ahead, Councillor Schadenberg.
The motion I'd like to make, though, is that the Woodstock City Council defers the changes to the Municipal Code Chapter 513, snow ice removal of sidewalks, to the bylaw section of the agenda, to at least defer it to a future meeting, to give engineering department and Taylor Crinkle on his department, works department, a little bit more time to take a look at this complex problem, because it's very diverse in its nature, that we've had different discussions and talks, not to sort of say you can't open up the can of worms one more time, but that we defer it to a July meeting.
Okay, to a July meeting. So we'll keep the motion to just the direction, and then we can give explanation afterwards. So the motion is to defer this to a future meeting in July. And seconded by Councillor Lauder. So discussion. Councillor Schadenberg.
I guess the kind of the statement I want to make, I did start it earlier, and I didn't realize, of course, it was the right way of doing it. But I spent 19 years in real estate. The one thing we always said people getting confused with is things like mutual drives and shared driveways. Of course, having two driveways side by side are neither shared nor mutual, but it still causes confusion between neighbors. And of course, there's the distance from the center of the road to the lot line to kind of think, well, where's your lot line, and where can you actually put your snow to? And we all get frustrated when we even drive around town and we witness people actually shoveling their snow onto the road, which is of course completely not allowable. And we of course gave people a 1 year to give them warnings that if they don't shovel their actual sidewalks, that we give them basically a 1 year to be able to, I guess, 1 year grace, I guess, give them warnings. But the other thing I think of too is we have enough duplexes and up and down duplexes and even a couple fourplexes, for example, on Adelaide Street that have come up then where the whole front yard is basically almost completely driveway. And I think this issue is a lot more complex than I think we're giving it credit to sort of be able to take the one change that was suggested in our agenda and to go forward and make that specific change. Maybe I can see that, but there's still a lot more I think that could be addressed or should be addressed here.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? There we go. And opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. And our next item on the agenda is the park access policy. And this one is not about the access for citizens to our neighborhood parks. This is about access to the through the parks to the backyards of neighboring abutting properties. So those instances where somebody would like to have access to bring equipment in to maybe dig a swimming pool. So looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Tate and Councillor Fraser.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council adopt council policy PR 015 Parks Access Policy.
Thank you. And discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And our next item on the agenda, this is for the planning, the committee of adjustment, and the council meetings. And again, within all of our procedures and guidelines, it spells out how those meetings have taken place. And of course, we are now conducting these meetings electronically, and we're also looking at having approval to conduct those meetings at a different time right now. So during the day, so that staff who are helping us as resources, both with their expertise and with technical, that it can be taking place during the regular working hours. And this will also grant the authority to cancel and schedule those various planning and committee of adjustment meetings for the duration of the emergency for COVID. So looking for a mover and a seconder. So moved by Councillor Accioni and seconded by Councillor Fraser. Go ahead, Councillor Accioni.
Move by myself, the Woodstock City Council authorize regularly scheduled council meetings held under Municipal Code, Chapter 16, Section 16.6.24, electronic participation, emergencies to be conducted at 1:30 p.m. for the duration of the Ontario government's declared emergency due to COVID-19. And further, that staff be delegated the authority to cancel and schedule planning meetings and committee of adjustment meetings under the Planning Act 1990 for the duration of the Ontario government's declared emergency due to COVID-19.
Thank you. And discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the mayor, I guess this time to our clerk, Amy Humphreys. I know she's on board here this evening. Give us an idea too, is the fact that if we're doing a public meeting, it doesn't matter if it's a variance or something to do with a severance, that really if it's a public meeting, the public has to have the opportunity to have a full participation, and under current circumstances, that simply isn't really feasible, is it?
Yes, Your Worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, that's correct. That's a challenge that we really have with these type of public meetings, is that in order to hold them in the public, it's very difficult for us to maintain things like physical distancing during this time. Now, since the writing of this report, the Ontario government has announced that they're going to come forward with some options for us to consider virtual meetings for these public planning meetings. However, we're not going to have anything in place by the May 4th planning meeting. So given how fluid this situation is and how often it's changing, our thoughts were that if council can delegate this authority to staff, we can move very quickly as these things come forward and schedule these things accordingly. As I'm sure you can imagine, we will have a number of planning and committee of adjustment reports by the time we are able to have one of these meetings. So we may also need to schedule extra meetings. So we're just looking for that flexibility, because like you said, it's not an option at this point to hold an in-person meeting and still adhere to the current physical distancing requirements.
You want to continue, Councillor Schadenberg?
I guess this is just a statement now to Mayor Birchard, to the people that are viewing, that we've certainly had some great participation, even the year and a half that I've been on council on certain topics, about listing any of these topics, that we've had great participation from the community of Woodstock. And that's the idea of having the public meeting on the Monday before the Thursday city council meeting, is to have, again, great participation from the community. We've had 20 or 25 or 30 people out to speak on either side of an issue sometimes. And that couldn't be done in our council chambers or any council chambers for that matter, that size of a crowd and that would be just one topic sometimes.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries. And next up on the agenda, we have an update to our council policy for health and safety and for prevention of workplace violence and harassment. And looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Accioni. Go ahead, Councillor Lauder.
Move that Woodstock City Council adopt the council policies HS 001, Health and Safety Policy, and HS 002, Prevention of Workplace Violence and Harassment as amended.
Thank you. And discussion. Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries. And next up, we have the temporary suspension of the sale and the discharge of fireworks. And this is our municipal code 802. And at this point in time, it is going to be, if this is passed, that there will be no sales of fireworks in the city and no fireworks allowed to be permitted publicly or in your private yards or for the neighborhood. And again, I know that many people look forward to having this for Victoria Day in conjunction with the things like the parade that we have, as well as the activities at Southside Park. And unfortunately, with everything that's going on, we need to make sure that we keep all of our emergency services available for other items. So this would be a first to not have any of these sales here in the city, but I think it's for the best of our community. And looking for a mover and a seconder. So we'll have a mover is Councillor Schadenberg and a seconder, Councillor Fraser. And go ahead, Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, the motion that Woodstock City Council approve the temporary suspension of the sale and discharge of fireworks for the 2020 Victoria Day holiday period as identified with the Municipal Code Chapter 802 fireworks, and that the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. And discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? And carries unanimous. Thank you. And we have no notices of motion or new business. So next up will be the bylaws. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 935920 is a bylaw to provide for the delegation of signing authority for deferred development charge agreements by council. 936020, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the director of administrative services to sign the letter of agreement for the transfer of dedicated gas tax funds for public transportation program. 936120, a bylaw to temporarily suspend Municipal Code Chapter 802 fireworks in order to prohibit the sale and discharge of fireworks for the 2020 Victoria Day holiday period. And 936220, a bylaw to amend the City of Woodstock. That one was deferred, so I should, that one
okay.
that's deferred. Sorry, that's it.
That's it. Discussion. Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? And carries unanimous. And Councillor Talbot.
Moved myself and seconded by Councillor Lauder that the file on bylaws be given a third and final reading, 935920, inclusive through to 936120.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And carries unanimous. And I'm going to, let's see, tonight we'll start with Councillor Tate for closing remarks.
I don't really have any. Obviously, there's nothing much going on. Just thanking staff for all the work they've put in. They've put in a lot of hours. After everything we've been through with the computer issue, and then this, and then the fire next door. Just like to thank all the staff for everything they've done.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Schadenberg? No, and Councillor Fraser?
I just want to echo Councillor Tate's comments about staff. Under all the circumstances have happened of late, and going even back to our cyber attack, our staff has done an outstanding job and they're exemplary, and we can't say enough allocates to support them other than keep up the good work. I have one other quick comment, more personal. I have to thank all the mayor and rest of the council and staff and the community for the support they give me, in particular in the last few months, but in particular for the last year and a half. It's been a difficult time. I still got a bit of a highway to go down, but things are coming back together, and I appreciate everybody's support. Thank you.
Well, and before we move along, I'll say that I know both here with all of council and staff and many members in the community, they continue to send best wishes, and you're in our thoughts and prayers, and your daughter as well. And thank you for your continued dedication and your perseverance. So thank you very much, Councillor Fraser. Councillor Lauder. You're on mute right now, sorry. There we go.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. I just wanted to say it's wonderful to see everyone's face here, even though we can't meet face to face. It's just nice to see everyone and see that everyone's looking pretty healthy. And I too want to thank the staff for all they have done. It's just wonderful. Thanks for the preparation of the budget and finally getting it approved. It's been a while, longer than we thought. And I just want to say to everyone, stay healthy, get out for your walks and fresh air. Our trails are open, and if you want to, you can, there's lots of exercise programs on YouTube. I've been trying them out, and it's just important to keep active and get out and get some fresh air. Thank you to all.
Thank you. Councillor Talbot. There we go.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just echo everybody's sentiments. I mean, we're very fortunate to have the staff that we do. They've gone above and beyond the call of duty in the last few months, being challenged. We thought the cyber attack was going to challenge us. Little did we know that a pandemic was around the corner. But along with our staff, just have to comment on the kind of community that we live in, to all the emergency service people, everybody that's out there helping their neighbors, just going forward. This is a very tough time for everybody, and everybody seems to be pitching in. And I've had a post on my notes on my desk. It's been there probably for about 40 years, and it was something to always keep me inspired. And it was, tough times never last, but tough people do. So let's make sure we stay tough, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Thank you. And Councillor Accioni.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I want to echo my fellow councillors. Of course, city staff has just been phenomenal. Just the stress they've seen lately is just unreal. Talking about the cyber attack, of course, now the pandemic, the fire, just everything, and then a budget to be thrown in there. So just thank you, staff, as well. And a huge thank you to all those that are still working, making us through, everybody, right from not only city staff, of course, but right to the truck drivers. We couldn't survive this without a lot of these supplies that they're working. So just for everybody else, stay home, stay safe, support local as much as we can. One day we're going to want to go back to all those businesses. So I just keep encouraging people to support local any way they can. And those small businesses, I know I've heard recently a few of our restaurants have shut down. Let's just remember them as soon as we can and deal with everybody we can. Thanks, everybody. It was good to see everyone. Have a good night and be safe.
Well, thank you very much to all of council. And again, I don't want to repeat what everybody has said, but when I look at some of our neighboring communities and other cities, and I see some of the difficulties that they have at different times, whether it's having enough people to man the checkouts at the grocery store, or making sure there's enough people to do those deliveries. And then hearing all of the great stories of people who have come forward, they have their checks through the police already taken place, and they're out there getting the groceries and the supplies for some of the individuals that, of course, are unable to get out there right now. So everybody's really stepping up, and I know that when we look at those other communities and what's going on here, I can truly say that this is a great city and a great community, and the level of dedication and participation is tremendous. And again, we have people in the community that are trying to make sure that, of course, not just our physical health is maintained, but also our spiritual and mental health. So I look at so many of those great creative individuals, whether they're artists or musicians, and they're unable to be out there doing some of their things, and they're doing it online now, and really encouraging people and keeping that smile on the face. And of course, all of the faith community, the various churches, and seeing their online worship services. And of course, this was an Easter that was very much like the first Easter that took place 2,000 years ago. Much of it was done in secret. Families that would normally get together for feasts and celebration were unable to do so. But I think that this will help us all gain a greater appreciation of the small things in life that we've maybe taken for granted, that opportunity to hug a friend. And I just want to remind anyone who's watching this online right now that there are some people that you can think of right now who maybe do not have access to the internet. And when we look at our community and individuals that maybe are getting their sources of news primarily from network television, they're seeing a lot of the things that are taking place in large cities like Toronto or Montreal, or south of the border in New York or Chicago. And they're not getting some of that great local information that they need to have here about the friendly city. So I think it's great that we have this on YouTube, and that we also have Rogers here that'll be having this on their website, as well as on the cable channel 13. And for anyone who knows that there's individuals that maybe don't listen to the radio and do not get these web updates that the city provides on the website, or the mayor provides through the media channels, to make sure you pick up the phone and call people and encourage them and let them know some of the local news, that we are such a blessed community. We have enough sidewalks and trails in the city that we could have all of our neighbors from the township all here in the city all at once, and we would have more than enough physical distancing. So when you look at some of the large cities around and the density of the population, they don't have that benefit of what we have. We have really high quality of life here, a caring community, and I think it's paramount for all of us to make sure we do the best to reach out to some of those people that right now would be having a lot of anxiety. And as this continues on for several more weeks or perhaps longer, it's going to start to strain on many of the relationships that take place within the family dynamic. And for a lot of the young people as well that don't have that outlet at school right now, that safe environment, make sure you think about some of them, reach out to some of them, and encourage people that there's always help out there. All of our various programs that our community partners run, whether it's Welcome for youth wellness and mental health, or CMHA, or Big Brothers, they are all doing what they can to talk with people via appointment, whether it's online or on the telephone. So make sure you share that with people and continue to try to bring a smile to someone's face. Because of course, when we look at our overall health, it's all about not just our physical body, but it's also our mind and our spirit or soul. So want to thank everybody in the Friendly City for setting such a great example that is truly becoming the envy of many of our neighbors. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. And I ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Accioni. All those in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.